Okay.
Okay.
Great. Let's kick it off then. It's 7:32 and we'll start the meeting. First of all, I just sent everyone the minutes, but Bianca quite rightly reminded me that I'd sent them before. So I hope you've all had a chance to see them. Does anyone have any comments on those, or can we have a motion to approve? Matt?
Hi, I sent 2 comments, but I understand that it can't be done via email, right?
We can make those changes. I have your email. We can
You
make
do
those
have,
changes.
oh, okay. So do you want me to share the comments? Sorry?
Sure.
Oh, okay. It was just 2 things. One was that it was listed as a spring summer event, but I'm talking about this like Cornwall Days event. Idea is it's summer fall, and then also of course the holiday time with the art installation 12 Days of Christmas. So but it said spring, I think, Duncan, so it should be summer fall.
I apologize. I had your email. I will make those changes.
Okay. And I have the second comment I made is really just for clarity, and perhaps because I work in marketing, I'm very into what things are called. But I think when we refer to buy, hire, local, we're talking about a campaign. To my understanding, before I was on the EDC, we're talking about a campaign, a very specific campaign with very specific messaging, very specific creative that happened last year. And I just think that we should be clear that as we move forward with our efforts to promote Cornwall, that's not the same campaign. And so the buy, hire, local, there's nothing wrong with it, but I think that was, again, it was a specific name for a specific campaign at a specific point in time. And now we're just talking about promoting Cornwall ongoing.
Okay. Sorry.
And I'm sorry, could I just interrupt? I don't, just for purposes of me noting who's at the meeting, Jay Shepherd, who, could you identify both of you just for me and my
Unmute
minute?
yourself.
James and Idella Shepherd, we own the Cornwall CT in Cornwall Bridge.
Oh, good, right, you're the speakers.
Yes.
Excellent, okay, now I got it, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, Mayor. And again, I apologize for not picking that one up before. That actually is a great introduction. We had talked earlier about having representatives from local businesses address us and talk a little bit about what it's like operating a business in Cornwall, what's good about it, what some of the challenges are about it. And I thought we were going to start off with James and Idella, who run the Cornwall Country Market, for which we're all extremely grateful, and hear what their thoughts are. James, Idella, do you want to?
Want to go ahead first?
Yeah, hello. Thanks for inviting us. We appreciate you wanting to hear what we have to say. EDC to me is like, I don't know, it's not part of Cornwall. We're not quite sure in Cornwall Bridge what EDC actually does, because we haven't really seen too much of that here. Looking at what you guys, what is it, statement?
A mission statement.
Your mission statement to me is just a jumble of words that actually mean absolutely nothing, and has no focus on what Cornwall and Cornwall Bridge, in my opinion, needs from this committee. So what I would hope to see come from EDC to help the businesses in Cornwall and Cornwall Bridge. I mean, I'm just specifically going to be talking about Cornwall Bridge because that's where my business is located, is to have an interest in what is actually going on in that community. To be honest with you, I probably know 3 of you. 3 of you. And I've owned my store for close to 10 years at this point in time. And I know a lot of you are new on the committee, and you're looking to expand and reach out. So what I'm hoping that I can get from EDC for Cornwall Bridge is an understanding that we want to be part of the Cornwall community.
Do we exist? We're here.
We're here.
We're here. We exist. We're not, we don't have a cute bridge.
At Christmas time, everything is focused on West Cornwall. We used to have the Cornwall Days, which helped Cornwall Bridge. And then I heard that it is coming back, which is really fantastic. I hope to see that actually come to fruition. But I was also told that we're going to do Cornwall Day, 2 Cornwall Days. We're going to do a Cornwall Days in West Cornwall. And for the businesses in Cornwall Bridge, it's disheartening to hear that more money is going to be spent in West Cornwall for a weekend, that West Cornwall is always getting a promotion for something. So that's just my little.
No, it just seems like West Cornwall doesn't actually need the promotion. If anything, they're beating people back.
Right.
Right.
So what I would like to do is actually, I would like for you guys to be able to get the business owners together, get us talking, get us knowing each other, what we need, what we want. I mean, a bi-monthly get together of cocktails and business owners and the EDC and everybody would be a great thing for, I think, the whole community to get together, and we can talk with each other and understand what each other are going through. So
Jump in real quick.
yeah, go ahead.
Why not? Neil raised his hand and then left with his hand. That's really cute. Essentially what we're looking at is one example I told Simon was our property taxes, and I know everybody who's a property around here has felt this. Our property taxes have literally doubled in the last year. Doubled. But as a commercial real estate owner, and I own 2 commercial real estate properties in this town, my commercial real estate property values have not doubled. If anything, they've flatlined, if maybe slightly gone up. Personal real estate, yeah, woohoo! Everybody's cashing in, but I mean, literally, I went from $4,000 to $8,000 in commercial property taxes in a year.
In a year.
But I've got these massive dents in my driveway. I don't have any town support. I really don't know what I'm getting from $8,000, respectfully. And so seeing EDC investment in Cornwall Bridge, some attention into this area. We have 2 empty buildings across the street at this point, some reach out to those business owners to help them establish their businesses, to reach out to people, hey, what we need is this sort of a business or that sort of a business, and help recruit those sorts of people in the neighborhood would be really helpful. And then finally, just for our personal experience, what we need is we need town support. We need support in February. We need support in January. We don't just need support in July. We're going to have a great month this month. But winters are tough, and respectfully, Mr. Webb didn't know who we were. Support your local stores is what I would respectfully ask. That's all we need. We just love to see your smiling faces every day.
Respectfully, my job is to get names and spellings. I'm well aware of you as the proprietor of the store. So
Fantastic.
Right.
Bianca, if you could let Janet back in, she's in the waiting room.
Oh, sorry, I did not realize that. How did that happen? Sorry, Janet.
Anyway, thank you very much for letting us address you guys. Idella, do you have more you want to talk about? My guess. All right.
I mean, well, let me ask you a couple of questions. First of all, what do you like about being in Cornwall? Do you find it it's a good town to be doing in business in, the issues aside that you've raised? What are the positives? You've given us a long list of concerns. It'd be good to know what you like, and what, how you see the future of Cornwall, and how you'd like to see it change.
Well, Cornwall is a beautiful town, and it will always be a destination location for tourists, for visitors, travelers.
It's a beautiful place to live.
As long
and-
as we don't mess with the beauty of this area, you will always have a built-in tourist community, and that's what it is. It's becoming a tourist destination, highly.
And on that note, it is a tourist destination, and in Cornwall Bridge, we have no public services. There are no place for people to put their trash except for in the trash can that I pay for to go out. There's no place on a green for anybody to sit. There's no place for anybody to get services unless we pay for them. Our internet gets so bogged down that our credit card machine doesn't work half the time. And we have to shut everything down and kick everybody off so that our credit card machine will work again. And we want to be able to give those services to the customers that are coming into our store. But for us, it's getting really detrimental. My garbage bill is $680 a month. And it's a constant. We look out our window and people are just dumping garbage because there's nowhere for people to
Or they don't want
put
to go to
their-
the dump.
There's nowhere for those tourists to deposit their garbage, except for in my garbage can in this town. It's a lovely place to be. People love to come here. I love to see all the fishermen and everything. But what also I would love to see is support for those tourists. And I mean, simple projects of like EDC being able to buy some garbage cans that the town can pick up, and throw away at not my expense would be a fantastic
At
thing.
least
to see.
during the high peak weekends. We have Memorial Day weekend coming up. And we will see massive traffic coming through, massive traffic at the park, Bianca, hopefully at the Witch House, massive traffic. But being able to, I think the town needs to welcome those people more and accept them as, this is going to pay for half my winter, and the town has to accept that too, and create those services that are going to better service that economy.
If we're going to promote the town, we need to give, the town needs, or EDC has to help us provide services for the people that we are pulling in, that you're pulling in, and help us not have to burden the whole cost of that promotion. You're going to pull them in, but you're not going to give us anything to help service those people who are coming to
A
us.
perfect
So,
example is Harold's Fly Shop across the street, where for him, it was cheaper for him to sell the building. He made more money and work out of his home than to pay all the extra taxes for that property. And now we have, an empty storefront. So promoting those storefronts.
which the business owner there really needs some support. So EDC could step in and help him. He doesn't know what he's going to do if nobody knows that poor situation.
We do.
It's yeah. Thank you. It's a really sad situation. I think he just really needs some support. And if you guys could reach out to him and say, hey, what can we do? Because we've talked to him several times and he's just kind of in a la state, which I would be too. But he owns a commercial front and we all need to be invested in helping him open that commercial front. So that's what EDC could do for Cornwall Bridge to help us and help everybody else in town. So that's what I have to say.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Please go ahead.
So, look, first of all, I find this to be a tremendously helpful conversation in terms of getting sort of a temperature on what you guys are experiencing or not experiencing. I think that, I'll talk about a little bit of sort of a small niche that I had something directly to do with, which was the Christmas event in West Cornwall, which I really liked that event. And, we did a little bit of thinking about how to do a Christmas event in Cornwall Bridge this past year. That was definitely on the it wasn't part of the discussion here in this committee. It was sort of a separate discussion. And I talked to Harold a little bit about it to see if we could do a sort of a Santa meet and greet in his fly shop. This is before it's sold, right? To sort of use that sort of side portion of it to do a Santa meet and greet event. And honestly, I just couldn't sort of get it together. I just couldn't sort of rally the troops and find enough sort of personal time to get it done. But I think there would be a great opportunity there for something like that, that's different than the event in West Cornwall, but then can sort of, you know, have sort of a multiple sort of stop location in Cornwall. So, you know, somebody's, oh, we'll do the art show in West Cornwall, and then, you know, maybe we'll head here for like a 3 o'clock appointment to meet Santa or something like that. I thought that sort of had potential. I was thinking also of some kind of tell me, and Simon, if I'm taking up too much time, you tell me.
Please continue. This is a great discussion.
And so, you know, the other one was some kind of, you know, I think part of what stumps me on this front, not on anything else, I just want to talk specifically about some of this thing I was sort of thinking about, was you know, the difficulty of sort of pedestrian walking through, you know, element of Cornwall Bridge. It's just harder, right? It's, you know, so I was thinking, could we do some kind of drive-through? You know, there are a lot of holiday drive-through venues, and I would love a sort of a business owner partner down there to maybe come up with something. I know that there's a sort of you've got that big parking lot across from you guys by the post office. You know, that's a big sort of space that I think could service some kind of, I don't know, holiday attraction of some kind. And again, I know I'm being very limited here, but I just sort of want to give a sense of what I was thinking of last year, and I would love to sort of start thinking early for this year, because I think being able to, I mean, if you ever go to Torrington, I mean, I say this to people all the time, if you ever go to Torrington, they have that Christmas village, and the line to see Santa is literally like 2 hours long. You know, if we had some kind of event where that was the main attraction, I think we would do very well. And if you guys, you know, have food service, and you know, that's a good captive audience for a while, you know, either it's sort of a special hot chocolate stand or something like that could sort of, service people waiting in line. I don't know. I think there's a fair amount of potential. And the other thing that I'll just say very quickly, is, as a customer, and this is, I think, something that we've done in sort of other areas about internet service. Just as a customer who goes to your place, you know, there are times where I'm like, oh, I should go and just hang out for an hour at the picnic tables and get some work done, but I can't because there's no internet service. And because that's like a great place to go and have a sandwich and sit and hang out. And I think, look, we're all friends here, but there's a little bit of competition too. You know, I think you guys having that area sort of differentiates you from, the guys across the river there, you know, because they don't have any outside seating, and I don't think they can get any. So I think that's a real asset, and I'd love to find a way that we can help you sort of maximize that asset.
Thanks, Bill. You
So,
brought up two
anyway.
things. Bill, you brought up two things. One was the internet service, and two was the pedestrian access. And James, I think you talked about how the people from the building next door to you have to come through the forest to your shop in winter. Is that how it works?
Right. Well, and just a little backtrack history. When we were opening the store, we were promised there was a grant, that there was a new sidewalk that was being put in for this new Bonnybrook facility that was supposed to go to our store. And I was assured this by our town select people. This was done. It was coming. And we're like, okay, well, that's wonderful, because we're building this new Bonnybrook facility, and people are going to need to be able to walk somewhere safely in the wintertime. And it never came. My customers still needed to get to my store. And so I started basically creating, because we had a customer, a gentleman named Larry who lived there, and I called my Larry Trail. I started digging to the door of shoveling a path through.
Because the town didn't do it.
Nobody else was going to do this. And now I'm like, well, I'm seeing this old gentleman kind of walking through the snow on my Larry path, which it's shoveled, but how safe is this for a 65-year-old gentleman with, bad hips walking on the ice? It's not safe. And there is no safe way for anybody in the wintertime to walk from Bolingbroke to the post office, to the bank. And those are the things that create a town.
Richard, do these,
Those are all here, and nobody can get there because this sidewalk was never created, unfortunately. And then just to touch base on the other piece, the internet piece real quick, was at the same time we were also told, well, there's a cell tower coming in any day now, and we're gonna have cell service in Cornwall Bridge.
We all know
Well,
that story.
we all know how successful that has been. And so the reason you can't sit in my parking in my picnic area and use your phone is because there's no cell service. My Wi-Fi has to be my business first, and it's already covering a 3,000 square feet building with multiple refrigerators, a metal roof, and all of that. So getting it to broadcast out of the building is, limited at best. And that would be an area where the EDC could come in if wanted to get a separate Wi-Fi repeater and router for the towns. I don't know, how that works. I'm not a tech guy. That would be a great service. I'll mute my phone.
thank you, James. Richard, do you suffer from the same issues that James is talking about?
Are you asking me? Is that
Yes.
some of the same issues? I think that it is important to realize that a rising tide lifts all ships. And that really is the concept you have to think about. I think of West Cornwall as an entity. I think of Cornwall Bridge as an entity, but we're two different parts of the same body. Is kind of how I would think of it. And one of them sinks is going to pull down the other one, and one of them rises and pulls up the other one. I would think that there is some truth that the EDC has focused more on West Cornwall than Cornwall Bridge, but so be it. I think they probably need more help. And it appears that it is a rising tide, and I do think that that does help everyone. The issue of the internet, yes, I have some of the same problems. I share my internet. I have problems with that, and I'm not always sure whether that's related to multiple users or just Optimum or whoever it is. I'm really not positive on that, but I do have to reboot, certainly once a week, if not twice a week, and so that has occurred. We should actually check with each other if it's occurring to both of us at the same time. Then maybe the issue actually is Optimum. But I'm usually running around frantically trying to get it to work, then calling somebody else up to see if they have the same problem. I don't think I have the trash problem as described in the same way. The bathroom problem is partially an issue, and that's been partially COVID adjusted, because restricting access to a bathroom is generally accepted in COVID, even though that's the COVID issue in general seems to be, at least in people's minds, waning a bit, as in their mask restrictions and curbside activity is somewhat diminished at this point. I don't think we're out of the woods. Maybe a permanent situation in terms of COVID being around. I'm not sure what are some of the other issues that were brought up that.
Well, that's helpful. Well, thank you, Richard.
And Neil,
Does anyone else have any questions or
Neil's
comments?
got his hands up.
Neil,
Neil?
Thanks, guys. And I really appreciate hearing that, James and Idella. I'm Neil Frownglass, by the way. I live on Scoville Road in West Cornwall. I come in every weekend. I get my soup, I get my tuna and my chicken salad. So thank you for all that and making my sandwiches on gluten-free buns. You know, one of the good things, I'm new to this group, and I've heard this group talk about some of the things that you mentioned, not all of those things. So I think that it's really nice just to hear, and as you know, Will was saying, like, it is nice that I think we're opening up a dialogue here. But one of the big questions that I have, and you might not have the answer now, but what the vision is that the business owners in Cornwall Bridge have for that part of the community. Is it an area for locals? Is it an area for visitors? I think you could easily say both, but like, does it skew one way or the other? Because I think as the Economic Development Committee, this group has an opportunity to work with you and all the business owners to eventually build what the vision is. And I imagine hearing you all talk that you sort of have something maybe in mind, or you guys have talked about it. And I think it would be helpful for us to hear a little bit about that.
You're on mute.
All right. Well, I mean, I guess I just would love for Cornwall Bridge not to be a drive-through town.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what we are right now, is you just put the pedal to the metal and you get through there, because there's no sidewalks, there's no charm, there's no appeal. Like when you they stop and ask where the bridge is, though. Which brings me up to one thing that I really wanted to say. One thing, I would love to have one of those cool monuments that every other village has that says, West Cornwall this way, you know, the village this way, Sharon this way. Everybody else has those, but we don't. So that would be a #1 great asset to making us start looking like part of a town of West Cornwall instead of just the houses on the side. But I would love for us to look like a town. When people come up to us, they're like, oh, let's slow down for half a second. There's actually infrastructure here. You know, and infrastructure creates a town. And I think for me, my outlook would be to create an infrastructure in Cornwall Bridge that can support the type of tourism that is going to make us all succeed. So that's what
I was just going to touch also. I think we've all driven through New Preston during Christmas time, where every building is so freaking cute because they're all matching in their lights, they're matching in their decor. You know, that's obviously not an accident. That's planned by the town. Somebody made sure every store owner had the same lights, they were hung at the same time, and it was done right. And that stuff's expensive for store owners to buy, but that's an area where
as a town project, all of us working together.
You could do one color scheme for Cornwall Bridge, one color scheme for West Cornwall. They can be cute and different, but cute has got to be the most important thing. A number of years ago, Gordon Ridgway came up to us with this brilliant new crosswalk plan for in front of our store, and I felt like I was moving into Boston. It had enormous cement pylons and stuff, and the one rule we have to have for this town is it cute?
Cute.
Because that's what every person that
is expecting.
That's why you moved here. That's why you're visiting here, is because it's cute, it's sweet, it's quiet, it's Cornwall. Everything should meet that rule. So what do we want for Cornwall Bridge? We want it to be cute. That's it.
I want to pass it to Gary. But are there any specific businesses types that you feel are missing that you need or that?
Definitely.
A restaurant would be really good.
Mhm.
You know, I know that there was somebody, you guys had hired somebody, I don't know, a long time ago, and they came in, they did this big, huge study
Right.
that said, these are the businesses that we need to put into Cornwall.
Yeah.
And you guys spent a lot of money on that. And I haven't seen anything come from that. So you guys already have those answers of what businesses are going to succeed because you've spent money with a firm to tell you that. I don't know, it'd just be really nice, I don't know, to have.
Well, I think the answer is also a lot of go into any New England town. What do you have? You have a gift shop, you have a sweet shop, you have a
Clothes
cute restaurant, you
store.
have a clothing store,
Right,
you have
right.
a place. Cornwall, and we have as much of that stuff as we can in our store, but
shoe
we
store.
can't have everything. You know?
Right.
And the more we have those items, like bringing in Frank's in West Cornwall, is
So excited, we have a
wonderful. It's
reservation.
wonderful. Yeah, we have a reservation for Thursday. That's what we need, but we need more than one Frank's. Because sometimes we don't want Frank's. Sometimes, you know, we want Jose's. And so diversity and keeping it cute. I'll stop there.
Thank you. Jane?
I just have a question for both of you about what you think, whether it would be something worth pursuing to put benches and walkways and, for instance, your little monument with the arrows and so on the green there so that it became cuter and an appealing place where people might take a sandwich and go sit. Is that something, I mean, what's the feeling about having any development on that green? Does that feel good or does that feel like a bad change?
Well, I think that would be a fantastic change, but this is, I'm pretty sure this is the obstacle, is that green is actually owned by the state. It is not owned by the town. What can happen on that green is very limited, I believe. That might have changed. I know it was an issue a few
That's what
years
we
back.
were told in the past.
So I would love to see that happen,
If
but I
not,
don't think it can, or if it can, it's going to take a lot of work working with the state to come into a cooperation so that the town can use it.
one summer's day, I'd asked Gordon Ridgway if we could get some garbage cans just in the Cornwall Bridge area because I was sick of picking up stored garbage around town. And he said, but who would empty it? And that was the end of the discussion of garbage cans. I don't know the answer to that question, but that was the pushback I was given. You don't want sidewalks because somebody has to plow them. They don't want garbage cans because somebody has to empty them. They don't want.
I think some of those issues, the access to the green, the use of the sidewalks, there have been pursued and have been looked at extensively over years. And there are issues. There are issues with safety getting to the green. And the state is involved in it, and they have certain requirements for crosswalks. And it's complicated. It's complicated, expensive, and extremely limited as to how it can be done. I'm not saying it's impossible, but the number of obstacles are large, or many, and they're high. So it's a difficult step to access the green. You can choose to risk your own life and run across and be out there and enjoy it, but I don't think it's quite as easy to make it as a inviting step. That's sort of one. And two, the sidewalks were looked at also. Stepping back to that, there was a grant, there was money available, and there were problems with the sidewalk crossing. There was issues with it. I remembered that it wasn't as simple as it sounds. There were issues with drainage. There was issues with crossing, I think, some waterways. I can't remember all the issues, but there were several issues, and it was stepped back from. It's possible Gordon can remember that a little more, or possibly Roger Kane, who was involved in it. Touching back on one other thing now, James and Idell, I think both you and I can, all the three of us experience it all the time, that people do ask, where's the covered bridge? That's something that goes on all the time. And people end up, they want to go see the covered bridge. But I mean, the part of the upside to that is they've arrived in Cornwall Bridge, assuming the bridge is here. So we get to see those people, and we get to have them as guests, customers, whatever. They may be looking for somewhere else, but they end up shopping here and then go to the covered bridge. The downside for that, though, is that there are many people that end up in West Cornwall thinking that is Cornwall Bridge, and then they can't find us. That's also another thing, and you have to sort of explain, no, where the concrete bridge is, or where Northwest Lumber is, which is really Northeast Builders now, but talk about confusing. So I'm saying is that I think there's many people that end up in West Cornwall looking for Cornwall bridges. There are people in Cornwall Bridge looking for West Cornwall. I think it ends up in both directions, actually.
Well, thank you. I think that's helpful. Well, James and Idella, I think you've given us a number of things to think about, and we very much appreciate your being as frank with us as you have. I'm sorry, I should just ask, does anyone else have any questions, comments? No? Okay, well, let us.
I think Bianca may.
I just
sorry.
had sort of a suggestion in regard to making things maybe look more cute down in Cornwall Bridge. You have all in front, like towards the road, these areas that are sort of like just grass. Maybe we could get like the Cornwall Garden Club involved to create beautiful plantings in those areas. And also for the holiday season, actually create something on those areas that would be visually appealing, that would slow down traffic through that area. That could be utilized for that. I mean, there are situations, garbage cans, restrooms, we've had them in all areas of Cornwall, and they've never really been super resolved. I used to host garbage cans myself, and I had to give that up during COVID. But that is an issue, and maybe we as a commission could see if maybe we could get funding together to create something that would resolve that for both of those more touristy areas in town, because trash is, I pick it up off the road all the time too. But anyway, that was a suggestion, just as that.
And Simon, could I just, for the minutes, maybe, I thought the suggestion of a, whether it's monthly or semi-monthly gathering of the business owners of all the commercial areas, could we facilitate that just for exchange of ideas, more communication, more suggestion? I thought that was a very good idea.
Good. Richard, do you agree?
Oh, I have one more. Oh,
Mayor?
Gary. Oh, should I go and then Gary can? I do agree. That's a great idea. James and Idella, thank you so much for sharing that, as everyone has said. And I enjoyed chatting with you in the store when I was in last week too. And I am very new to this, so it's also interesting to hear the history. I just wanted to make a comment about the Cornwall Days, which is kind of fun that it was Jane on the committee that came up with that idea. We didn't even know there used to be something called Cornwall Days. So unoriginal name, but an important idea. So I just wanted you to know it's sort of in its infancy, but we do have a commitment to, make these sort of special days where businesses can be supported and offer unique things, and the EDC can provide, some support for it. Again, nothing set in stone, but I just wanted to explain that we very intentionally didn't want to do it all at once in West Cornwall and Cornwall Bridge, because it would feel like it might be competing. So we do certainly have the intention to have the same amount of support at its own time, most likely in October, again, because of the Iron Bank, and I explained that to you, so that each commercial center could have its Cornwall Day. And I just wanted to explain that.
Just one quick thing. I'm so sorry. I think what we all probably need to think about is maybe not thinking about our town competing against each other, and maybe just working together, so that we can create an event that happens over this whole beautiful area. There's no reason for our towns to compete. And just by me saying our towns shows that there's actually a division in our town, that we don't think we're one. And by doing things separately, I think it's going to continue that trend. And I think it's a trend that is a really negative trend for our community.
It's probably an old one that's like it's all most of us.
Yeah.
But
No,
I
I
mean,
totally
no disrespect
understand
whatsoever,
that.
just as somebody who's,
Yeah.
it's always been this is a West Cornwall thing, this is a Cornwall Bridge thing. But we're a town and we don't ever do a town thing together. And Cornwall Days would be great. We're all Cornwall.
Yeah.
Let's do the Cornwall Days. Have them stop here for an hour and stop there for an hour and stop up in the bridge or the village for an hour. Let's let
multiple things going on
explore
at
the
same
whole
time.
thing with a roadmap of that during wonderful weather.
Yeah, celebrate all of Cornwall in the summer and all of Cornwall.
Right.
Thank you.
Just
Well,
create that
message
team.
received on that.
Thank you very much.
Terrific. We're kind of running out of time on this one. Anyone else have anything they want to bring up? Gary?
I'll hopefully end on a happy note. James and Adela, thank you. We are working as the EDC to bring free public Wi-Fi to Cornwall Bridge. It's in its infancy, but it's starting. So hopefully that's good news.
Excellent. Well, thank you, guys. That was very helpful. And with that, let's turn to Gary, who will give us an update as treasurer, I hope, for the EDC.
I'm going to try and share screen. So if we can.
I think that should be possible. It should be possible. Share screen. Go ahead.
Share screen. That one.
There we go.
Yep.
Everyone's seeing
Yep.
it? So I thought I would try, since many of us are new, to get started with understanding our finances. Our fiscal runs from July 1 to June 30th. The budget for the year that's ending in about a month is $61.95. This was the framework of the budget that was proposed and used by the EDC. And of the $61.95 to date, we have spent $4,048, and there are the 9 specific line items. I haven't attached them to the specific categories, but the categories are basically fluid. We also have approved in a prior meeting 1,000 for Wi-Fi in Cornwall Village and the Realtor brochure. So there's 1,109 remaining. That is, and all of the other pieces need to be spent by June 30th or committed. If the philosophy or the focus is, if we don't spend it, we don't keep it. It goes away.
Right.
Looking to next year, this was the budget for 2021 as I just showed it to you. Can everyone see this? Or is it off center?
We see it.
Okay, so the budget has gone up by $305 using the same frameworks, and please grasp that the categories are whatever we choose. There is no specific subdivision in how we spend our money. And that's it. So that just catches us up to that. The next slide we're not going to use. That was, I was trying to identify it. So that is the lesson we have for the moment. We have, to go back and reiterate, 1,109 remaining plus this 1,038 that hasn't been actually paid out yet. Any
Okay,
questions?
well, thank you, Gary. That's the most organized budget I've heard in my 5 or 6 years on the board, I must say. Thank you. I think there are a couple of requests for expenditures coming up, I think. Bianca, you're familiar with those, I believe.
Yeah, so the Realtor brochures came to $51 because there was shipping involved in that. So that needs to be updated. And then I would like to request, we have all the Visit Cornwall maps that we only did last year, and we have probably a remaining, I don't know, I haven't sat down to count them, but I would say about maybe 800 to 1,000. And the idea and what I've done already with 400 of them, I've put new QR codes on them to send everyone to the Explore Cornwall website, so that this map could still be useful to visitors. And I would like to just print more of those labels for now and stick them on there, get those maps out into the public hands. And that would be about $100 for labels and ink.
Fine, thank
I
you.
also have a bill for the website, just signing up for Squarespace that I had talked with Janet about. I'll look, Gary, it's like $250 or something like that, just to house the new site.
It's 149 usually, I think.
Is that what it is? Yeah. But,
That's okay, yeah.
I can send the receipt for that. And then I know that there's been discussion about an ad in Rural
Right.
Intelligence, the print magazine.
Mhm.
And I don't know what the cost is of that, but
I think
Let's be careful on that
Yeah.
because we're beginning to run short of the cash.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted. Someone has an idea what the cost would be?
350 for that ad. Was a small ad, but could be very effective. And for 350 for a brochure that is out in the public for a long time, for almost a year, because I think they only do it once a year. It's their first. And Rural Intelligence really has a huge following. They do very aesthetic things. I think it would be worthwhile to, draw attention to the Explore Cornwall site, which then inadvertently gets people over to the .org site to visit Cornwall, and you get lost on that one. So you visit all kinds of things, and you might wind up with one thing or another that you didn't know you needed. But yeah, I think the $350 would be worthwhile, and probably that would finish off that budget.
I think also if you do the print ad, then you're automatically included in their online presence, which a lot of people
Right, exactly.
so that it has a double
Mhm.
effect.
Oh, thank you. All right, any other expected expenditures?
Yeah.
Bill?
Sorry, go ahead, Gary.
So what I heard from Bianca was an additional 13 for the Realtor brochure, about 100 for the upgrade of the
Maps. Mhm.
of the maps, 149 for the website,
249.
249. I'm sorry, I missed that. Okay. The print ad in Rural Intelligence, I think you said 349.
350.
350.
I'll spend for it all. So all of that comes out to 711
Ooh.
of the remaining 1109.
I have a question with regards to the expenditures for the Cornwall Village Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi, I think there was an expenditure of 1,000 in this budget and 1,500 in next year's budget, or maybe it's 1,500 in both budgets or 1,000 in both. I can't remember. There's some money this year and some money next year. Is that correct?
Money next year is 6,500, and we should spend some time at a later point and decide what categories we want to put them in. I used last year's as the leverage and just copied it, but
Sure.
it isn't.
My question then is the expenditures for this Wi-Fi in the village and the current one that does exist, I believe, in West Cornwall, is for the hardware to set it up, I guess.
Yes.
Or is there an ongoing expense or a monthly or a yearly expense to deliver the, I mean, one thing is the hardware to set it up, and one is a ongoing expense to keep it going.
Okay, so which this segues to the other topic I would cover, and it's appropriate to do it now. Wi-Fi in Cornwall Village, which we had budgeted 1,000, I now have updated numbers. The hardware piece is 795 on its own. And that will be leveraging the library's network. The library has let their guest network be now the public network. So there's no need for an additional firewall. It just needs to be on top of the $795 for hardware. There's an electrician charge to run wires. There's also going to be access points on the library and one on town hall. I don't have an estimate now, but ballpark is going to be another 400 or 500, which now goes back, Richard, as you'd asked, to the 1,500 originally conceived over a year ago. And that would accomplish this in Cornwall Village. There is no ongoing cost because the library network works as is.
And there wouldn't necessarily be a need to upgrade their Wi-Fi service. And if it is, it would be incremental, not a substantial increase, I guess.
And it seems to not, from what the technologist has told me, no, their network works for our goal.
Okay, thank you. That was, and maybe that's some of the same things that you would be applying to some of the other areas also.
Yes and no, and I'll cover that in a moment. The other additional item that is still to be discussed is to add a repeater in West Cornwall so that the signal strength that comes out of the Union reaches up to the Wish House, and the farm market. I don't have a price on that. That hasn't been, I haven't talked to the technologist yet on how to accomplish it. There's a discussion to be had with Bart Jones and Dan Smith, the owner of the building, because we're looking at putting it on the CCT space. Differently and yet similarly, to do this same idea in Cornwall Bridge, I don't have numbers, but I can say it is going to be more expensive than doing it in Cornwall Village because the firewall already exists in Cornwall Village. So to do it in Cornwall Bridge, we'll need multiple repeaters. We're going to need a firewall. So I will have hopefully better information about that at next month's meeting. But to come back to our moment now of our 6195 budget for this year, the additional items that have been talked about, and if the add and roll intelligence is approved, and the incremental cost for the Wi-Fi in Cornwall Village will bring us up to the 6195. I'm not sure if we'll have room in this year's budget, but we're almost at the end of the fiscal year to also then add the repeater to enhance the strength in Cornwall, in West Cornwall.
Sorry, are we in a position to ask for more money for the next fiscal year at this point? To that end about.
I don't know the mechanism. That's something I will learn. Gordon.
I think we just approved the budget.
Yeah.
The budget has been approved for 6,500.
The budget just got approved, so it's.
We missed the window.
Now, one thing you should understand is that you have an activity fund, and one thing the Economic Development Fund group did years ago, which has been done recently, which is a big success, is to put out a letter to all the businesses saying, this is what we're doing, this is what we want to do, please give us money. And I think they raised $3,000 or $4,000, which they could spend as they saw fit, as long as it's something to do with economic development. It was a very easy thing to accomplish, and that was even, I think it was put out in the mail. So I
So-
think there's an opportunity for you to get more money to do more things without going back to the taxpayers with all the strings that would be attached.
And maybe it could
Following on-
actually, it could
I'd
also
be
be
willing
in
to work
the,
with Simon to, I could even draft a letter for you.
it could be in the Chronicle too, that this is this request for money for the EDC, along with letters going out to the businesses, and then maybe some of the money coming in would not only be from businesses, but would also be from individuals in the community.
This would be something
Um,
that would make sense if we do have these business meetings.
Yeah, it would actually be a very good thing to talk about at the first one. We should try and combine that.
I
Bill?
wanted to mention, so, I mean, obviously there's $1,200 in there for the Christmas thing. So I'm really looking for this next version of the 12 days to basically be financially independent and not require a payment from the EDC. So I right now I can't promise that because I haven't sort of done the outreach, but that would revolve around being a little more sort of being more aggressive about having artists create pieces that could sell or contain pieces that could sell so that it becomes a more commercially advantageous venture for them. And because of that, I think we can get away with not sort of assisting so much with mounting, which is a lot of what that $1,200 is for. In addition to that, the $1,200 mounting expenditures is very asymmetric. Some of the artists in the past have done it completely on their own, $10 in lights or something like that, whereas other ones required a lot of sort of gear to get it set up. That being said, I think another sort of part of that making independent, it might be sort of a question for sort of Bianca and a couple of other business owners, and that is that the printed materials is a hard cost that I think is going to be hard to pass on to the artists. Maybe that, and the prizes, although we have a bit of a stockpile now, I wonder if that is, I think that comes to about $300 for the printing and the prizes and the sticker stuff. I wonder if that might be something that could be shared among participating businesses. We don't have to decide that here and now, but that's something that I'll sort of broach a little bit later in the summer, because I just don't like to see that big number on a $6,500 budget to sort of pay for that art installation. I think it can be independent.
Well, thank you. That would certainly be very helpful.
Yeah.
I think we probably need a motion to approve the expenditure of, let's say, 711 on those items that Gary laid out. The additional $13 for the stickers, $100 for the upgrade of the maps, $299 for the website, $350 for the advertisement, and the balance for the village internet connections. Can we have a motion to support that?
Make a motion.
A second, anyone
I'll second.
in favor?
Discussion.
Thank you.
No,
Any
Simon,
opposed?
there's a discussion first.
Oh, haven't we been having the discussion for the past 10 minutes? I apologize.
I had an observation on the ad that I'd sent, mentioned to Bianca. Now that I know the Rural Intelligence is an annual publication, it changes it slightly, but my preference would be that ad be a little bit more robust.
I think Neil has something else to add. That
Oh.
was just an idea. That was just totally an idea. Was a
Oh,
thought
okay.
that I had sent to Simon. And when I asked Simon if I should forward it to the group, it got forwarded to the group. And it's a blimp, but I think Neil has something else to offer. Haha.
Neil?
Do you want me to do that now?
Mhm.
Sure.
Jump right in.
Great. I know we have some other things, but I will jump to the ad. I had some conversations with some of you independently, and we talked about, there's, there's something about advertising the town, and the rest of this is sort of in this presentation as well. But there's something about Cornwall, which is, it's an off the beaten path place that you want to find and stumble upon, right? It's not really a big place that you want to advertise. And then when you come here, you expect a visitor center and all these things, right? So I loved the size of this ad, which is very small. Like Bianca said, can still be very effective, but it is something that's more found. And to just really put forth what it is that you can do here. And these are the things that we had been talking about, shop, eat, escape, explore. That's what this town is. And you can see all of those things at explorecornwallconnecticut.com. So, we were just thinking about something very simple, very straightforward, utilizing the imagery of the town that the most people know, which is of the bridge, and really just to drive traffic directly to the visitor website. So these were the other two pieces. There was another visual that we had looked at for anybody else who saw. I just don't have it high res enough, but if there is another visual that folks like that's high res, we can try that too. But these are the two that I wanted to recommend. And I had my creative director at the office make them.
Thank you.
I think these are great. Neil, do you have a preference for one, or is it to go with both?
My recommendation is the one on the right because it has less elements to it. She just took that little bar that goes right across Cornwall in our logo and extended it right across the ad.
I like that too.
Right, to put the Cornwall in it, and there's less things to look at in one glance. You can take it all in. So I like that one better.
I agree.
Likewise.
Great. Neil, one question. Can you Photoshop in a blue sky?
Yeah.
No, seriously.
But we can. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. We could
A realistic blue sky.
Yep, we could do that.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's got punch and power.
Yeah.
Looks
Great.
good.
Great.
Love that.
Well, thank you, Neil.
Thank you, Neil. And thank you, Bianca.
Anyone else got any comments they'd like to raise on these potential expenditures? I think, do we need to repeat the motion or can it stand? Okay.
You need the vote. That's the vote time.
Okay,
So,
well, let's repeat
let's
the
be
motion.
technical.
Who was the proposer? Bianca, was it you?
What?
Who was proposing the motion last time?
That me?
Yeah, okay.
And Bill, you were the seconder?
No, Jane.
Jane was?
Seconded.
Great. All in favor?
I.
Any opposed? Nay. Excellent. Passes. Thank you.
And just following on this, for those expenses that we've just approved, if you can get me the information and invoice ASAP, they need to be, it will be easier for us as I'm still learning to have them done by June 30th. So we have no overlap to the next fiscal year.
Exactly. Perfect.
sorry.
Well, thank you very much, Gary. Oscar, do you have want to make any comments about how awful it is trying to pull data together?
Well, I think what we've discovered is there's. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we've uncovered the notion that there's more demand for this information beyond this committee, and so that there may be an effort that involves, I think, planning and zoning. Gordon can confirm that, but there may be a more holistic approach to trying to aggregate this information so it can be utilized not just for us, but for a bunch of the committees and the entire town to really gauge our successes, our wins, our losses. The information is still hard to get to, and I think we learned just yesterday that some of the census data won't be available until 2023, so it's going to be harder to deliver more real-time, effective data than I imagined. But the good news is that there's going to be more resources put behind it. And I don't know, Gordon, if you want to comment on it, but I think we're onto something. We just have to figure out how to implement.
Yeah, I think it's going to be good, because I think if
Nice.
Somebody's got a hockey game on.
Ranger
Well,
fans in the background.
I was certainly met with enthusiasm.
that was good. See, what more can I say? But
That's-
no,
we
I
don't have
know
fun on
that
this one.
the planning and zoning chair, Anna Tamil, is a very data-driven person. I think there's a lot of people are aware that changes are happening in town, and every year since 2019 has been different than the year before, a year afterwards. So what actually is going on is really important, and the only way you can really tell what's going on, because everything sort of looks the same, but it's not the same. I mean, the price of housing has gone up 60% or 50% in 3 years. So the school population has gone up, but not that much. It's leveled out. The average age in Cornwall has probably decreased. The amount of people who are now working back in New York is probably increased over what it was in 2020. Richard's liquor store sales are decreased from last year, but are up over 2018. And I would also include, the need for us to get real-time data on how businesses are going. Northeast builders is booming. Selling a lot of, and again, one of the bigger employers, Mohawk Mountain, is having some of the best years. Ian Ingersoll is backed up for 16 months on orders. Other places probably aren't doing as well, but there's a lot of really important information out there that we need to know. The amount of houses that are being built in town is probably 1 or 2 per year. The value of those houses are going up. There are no rental housing for available in town right now. So there's a lot of interesting stuff that's out there that's changing, and make a long story short, we have a very good consultant for the Planning and Zoning Commission who has access to a lot of this information. And what we're looking at doing now is do a 2020 baseline, get 2021 in there on some of these things and some of these data points, and then see how things have shifted around the last couple of years. And then take this data to the Planning and Zoning Commission when they review their plan of conservation and development every January, and say, this is how things are shifting. How much affordable housing was built last year? I can tell you it's 0. So again, where are we doing well? Where aren't we doing well? So anyway, I think thanks for Oscar for pushing this. And we'll have some sort of draft, probably over the summer and fall, get ready for the January meeting. And then if people have other data points we want to look at, again, enrollment in the child center, number of births, number of deaths, average age, a lot of that stuff we can pull out, and we will pull out from different sources fairly easily. So again, I think we're really useful, try to see what's working, what's not, what needs to be pushed.
Thank you, that's great. Can Oscar liaise at all with this consultant, or would you rather that consultant waits until her report is done? Gordon, sorry, that was addressed at you.
Say that again?
Sorry, can Oscar liaise with the consultant that was at the P&D Commission?
Well, I think we'll all get together at some point and have a smaller Zoom meeting.
And Neil and I had an earlier, it's a little dated, but we did have a brief correspondence. I mean, I think there are certainly social media metrics and the things we've discussed in prior meetings around impressions and views and some of the real-time data that we can get from the online presence that we could probably package into something that is consumable for this committee pretty quickly. And Neil, you might want to comment on it, but I think that's something we could probably work with just for this committee because of the relevance and the real-time nature of it.
Yep, for sure.
Good. Well, thank you, Oscar. Neil. And with that, let's just move on. Neil, we tried to make you, see if we could make you a full member of the commission. Unfortunately, under Connecticut law, we're not allowed to because you're not a resident in Cornwall. So what we would like to do, and this has been approved by the gods in the selectman's office, what we would like to do is make you an honorary member of the EDC. There's new compensation, new privileges that will make you feel much better when you leap out of your hammock first thing in the morning.
That's lovely. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. We really appreciate all the work you're doing, and it's making a huge difference.
Thank you.
And with that, let's move on to the report.
Sorry, Simon, is there a motion for that, or that's just something to note in the minutes?
No, you're quite right. We should have a motion.
I have a question first.
Yep.
I have a question. If Neil is an honorary member, we do a lot of talking in the background, between meetings. And because he's not a member, we're free to speak without having to create minutes and agendas and so on. So I just want to be assured that as an honorary member, we can still communicate as we have been. Because sometimes he and Mayor and I will talk and so on. Does this affect that?
I think that's for you, Gordon.
Oh, well, honorary member, yeah, I don't want to deflate what you're trying to do, but honorary members do not count for purposes of quorums and things. So
Good.
the honorable Neil will be able to be and talk with whoever he wants to talk with.
Then I would like to make that motion.
Second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Against? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done. Gordon, do you want to give us a quick update on what's happening, particularly with
Sure.
COVID?
Yeah, so then, so a lot of things are coming up. We have an active housing group, as obviously the lack of affordable housing is impacting businesses. Talking to local businesses, most of them would be able to expand if they could have find more people. So without housing, that's very hard to do. The biggest, probably the biggest event for the next couple months will be the work is coming to a culmination on the West Cornwall wastewater plant informational meeting on June 11th, town meeting on June 25th, and a referendum vote, absentee ballots available for voters that can't be here on July 9th. So again, this is over $6 million, of which we hope we're assured we'll get $3 million in federal money. It's probably the biggest economic development package a small town in Connecticut is trying to push through. But I think it's also important as a social development endeavor. Also, anybody that's gone down to the events at the new restaurant in West Cornwall can see that this is the time when people need to pull together, see each other. It's one of the things we've lost during COVID, and we're trying to bring back, even though COVID is coming back in town, with having more events this summer. So anyway, so that's happening. It would be good if members can. We're putting out a 3-page insert in the Cornwall Chronicle. It'd be good if members can participate in that process this June and July. This will be people's chance after 6 years of work to actually vote on something. Property owners can also vote in addition to registered voters, but they need to check in with the town clerk to find out about how that process works. One other thing I would also echo, just an historic note, when this group started, there was a consensus among the group of having town-wide events as opposed to have village only events. There was a real concern that one of the Cornwall is fractured among 3 postcodes, 3 villages. That can be a weakness. It can be lead to a divided perception. So I would again encourage everyone to do town-wide events as opposed to events that only feature one village, especially as you might have just heard, we're spending $6 million on one fairly small part of town, even though it's a very important part of town. West Cornwall is only one part of a very much larger place. So whatever we can do to do town-wide events, I think that's just my 50 cents on that. Speaking of town-wide, we are still pursuing the fiber. Got a couple people working with me, and we're posing questions to Optimum about their rollout schedule, and we wait to hear back on that. But that initiative again, which would be a major thing for people, is moving forward. Not quite as fast as, of course, like a lot of things that we like, but it is moving forward. So those are sort of the big ones that I had. Any other questions?
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about COVID in the in northeast and northwest corner of Connecticut. Are we suffering particularly badly at the moment, to your knowledge?
Yes. The hospitalization rates here are high as they've been since February. So it's real. And unfortunately, as a doctor told me at last weekend, I mean, the thing is, the current strain is more contagious than the previous strains, and people are sort of over it. We're all over it. We're all tired. I'm tired of having my glasses fog up. But it's here. It's real. People are in the hospital right now that are from Cornwall. It's not great, but we're again going to try to do events outside the best we can, and we may have to curtail some of those if it really peaks. But I'm not. I don't know. Whatever. I'm not going to too many indoor things with a lot of people unmasked myself, but that's just me. I mean, I think it's real. And again, we're handing out test kits, more in the last couple of weeks than the last couple of months. So.
Thank you. Any other questions for Gordon?
May I ask something about and maybe this may be a follow-up, because I know the meetings can only have so much on the agenda, but I just wanted, I guess, a comment and then a question, because certainly this Cornwall Days thing needs a lot more input from this whole group and a lot more planning. I think that while I completely understand and respect the need for the cohesiveness of the towns, I guess I'm just worried about literally the human resources it takes to do an event in two places on the same day. And I'm sure that this commission can discuss and come with ways to address that concern. But I guess I just wanted to make that comment, and and Gordon, if you have any
we did it.
Comment about that. It feels like it could get hard to manage, literally. So
we did it, and the EDC did it for a couple of years, and it was on Columbus Day. It featured both villages, and it relied on a lot of the work being done voluntarily by the businesses that wanted to participate. Northwest Lumber put up a tent at a big sale. I think there was a tent and a band at James and Adela's. There was artistic events, and they packed West Cornwall all on Columbus Day weekend. And to me, I just felt it was all manageable. I think Richard also lived through it. It was certainly a lot less work than the old bridge dances, because people just basically took on as much as they wanted to do, put up tents and did their thing out in their front yards. It wasn't highly stylized, but I'd say it was successful. We all had fun, and I think I could try to dig into that a little bit more and try to get some information on how that worked. I almost think can't remember if it was on Sunday or Saturday or even both, but there was a lot of buy-in, which probably I don't want to overpromise or overspeak for people, but I would think most, especially that's like the last big gas before the holidays, and then it's other things, leaves fall off and it's other dry.
Right.
So, I mean, I think just,
Okay.
again,
That helps me. Yeah.
it also focused things because, you know, like Salisbury has like a big townwide day thing. So people were going from Litchfield or from Kent to Litchfield to Cornwall to Salisbury. I mean, so there's a lot of people just moving through anyway. And then if you can promote it as Cornwall Days, blah, 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 then they're definitely not going to be different. I mean, they definitely are going to be different what you're going to have there. But again, just getting a couple of key businesses in each hamlet to tie in, you know, I think could help. And again, they got all fall to rest up afterward.
Gotcha. No, that helps. Some context helps me. Thank
Yeah,
you.
and I'd be glad to dig in and talk, try to find out what information we had, if we even have, if any of the publicities survived.
Thank you. Bianca?
I think in this respect to what we have been sort of talking about in a small group too, the idea was to do something outside of Columbus Day. Columbus Day brings automatically droves of people, especially into West Cornwall. I mean, sometimes the bridge is blocked off because there's traffic going back and forth. That's, you know, to do something actually on a different day, a different weekend, to bring people into town, to, you know, feature a summer day. And I think what we wanted to focus on was milestones and new beginnings in each town center. And it doesn't really matter. I don't believe that it really tears the town apart. What I've often done is collaborate with businesses from other parts of the town and bring them to that particular venue at that time. I think Cornwall is unique in its sense that it has 3 different town centers. It's not like Salisbury and Lakeville, you know, they each have their own town center. It's very different. So I don't think
Almost
it makes.
Sorry.
No.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, good. Thank you. Priscilla, do you want to make any comments about the real estate market? No. Janet, do you have any comments?
Not tonight. I think you guys have been commented at enough, probably.
Thank you. Very quickly, I think we've covered an awful lot of the progress against the goals, but obviously Neil has prepared a slide presentation. And Neil, do you want to share that with us?
If we have time, yeah.
I think we have time.
Okay.
We're running at an hour and a half so far.
I'll move through quickly on this, but I know the last time we spoke, we wanted to just get a sense of an advertising approach. This is 10 slides and I'll make it into 5. So, you know, the first is I just started with our mission, and I think listening to James and Idella, it might be worth us thinking about. The mission, I actually also had some thoughts on it, so maybe this could be an agenda item in a future meeting. But I do have some thoughts to enhance the mission just based on things that I've been hearing from everybody. But at its core, we know what we need to do. So I laid out marketing objectives, and you know, this might be something for everybody to take in and comment on at the next meeting. But the first in my mind is really building the image of the destination so that we can increase day trippers, weekenders, remote workers, and new residents. The second thing that marketing, I believe, can do is really promote the local businesses, right? And that's specifically retail, restaurants, the farm stands, lodging, and Airbnbs. What I've seen a lot with the social is the importance and desire to celebrate civic pride. And I see that as being important at every destination, big and small. So I think that is a third important objective. And then rounding it off with new news. And that's what we've been talking a lot about, and what, you know, Mayor's doing with that committee and Cornwall Days, right? Those are reasons to come here and to interact with us when there's new news events, businesses, attractions. So those are the four sort of objectives that I see from a marketing point of view. And I shared this with all of you once before, but I think it's important to also just like remind ourselves what the core brand attributes are, because I might be missing some, or we might not agree with these, but this sort of drives the marketing. And you've seen this in the website and in the Instagram and Facebook, right? This is an authentic country life. It's not urban, it's suburban, it's country, right? And it's also an escape for many people. The greenest town in Connecticut, the home of the covered bridge we've heard tonight. It's a natural rural community, right? It's farmlands, there's forest land, there's wildlife corridors. We've talked a lot about how unpretentious, uncrowded, unspoiled it is. That's why I don't love the like, come to Cornwall giant ad, right? We want to play into that. It's a hidden gem. We want people to find us, to stumble upon us. And it's also a really vibrant community for arts and culture, music, art, architecture, right? Like that's what this brand is, and that's different than the other brands around us. So I just put some thought to a channel approach, and it's through owned, earned, and paid channels. Owned are ours, right? Our Facebook, our Instagram, our website, our events, our emails, right? Our owned channels can really raise awareness and help us own the narrative about Cornwall. And when I post, you all send me thoughts about like what Cornwall is and what Cornwall isn't. We should really drive that narrative about this place, and also drive word of mouth and word of digital. So people are talking about us a little and sharing. And also through our own channels, we can really support the local business community. And this is where I'm thinking emails. We've talked about newsletters before. The idea tonight came up about meetings, but I think our own channels is also really where we support local businesses like James and Idella. The second thing that we talked about last time is paid. And there are so many channels for paid. Some of the most financially efficient ones are social, Facebook and Instagram. We could do some digital things. Radio we've used before, like all of that is not too expensive. And I look at, while owned can raise awareness, paid can help drive visitation, help drive conversion by helping people stumble upon us. And the way that I see using paid is really about promoting annual events, to promoting townwide activities, right? So it's all about the message. It's not about come to Cornwall, but it's saying like, Cornwall is, this event is happening in Cornwall, right? Get people to want to come to the events, to the thing, to the Cornwall days, as opposed to coming to the town. And I'll dive a little deeper into that in one more slide. And then earned for me is all about, it's about PR. It's about what people say about us. And we could use PR to amplify this evolving story of our town. Our town is so different now between Frank's and Cornwall Bridge Gardens and Susie's. Like it's a completely different experience when people come here, right? The town's evolving. I talked to the editor of Rural Intelligence, and she said, I think, the Cornwalls, by the way, is what she calls us, is ripe for a story, right? Because there is new news. We are constantly evolving. So I really look at PR to do that with us. And it could help also PR these key events and activities. And that's really just managing relationships with these editors. So this already, our owned channels is the website. We're seeing visits up since we launched it, over 180%. Page views means like I might go to one page, but then I want to continue exploring. That's up 222%. So that's good. That means people are going there and looking for more content. Our social channels, I don't know if you all saw, I posted the other day, we're down, right? So the reach is we're infinitely higher than we were, but the reach is down, engagement is down, followers still continues to climb. So I said, how are we doing the other day? So I could try and understand what people want to see. And everyone says, we love it, we like it. I didn't get many good specifics, but I see less people liking, I see less people interacting. So that's something I'm trying to figure out. Maybe just because the novelty's worn off, it's not as new. I don't know what it is, but I'm seeing that down, still, doing okay. And then the last thing for own channels is this idea of a newsletter. We've talked about us Are we Chamber of Commerce like? How do we get businesses together? How do we tell the story to the business owners as much as we're telling stories to potential visitors and to locals like we do through our social channels? And I think that we can create an owned channel that is specific for the business owners. And I think that would answer a lot of what James and Idella were saying. Is I just thought what's behind all of it that they're saying is they don't know what we're doing. They don't know what we're thinking. They don't feel in the loop. You know, that was part of it. So I think a newsletter could be a great opportunity. Of course, it's a lift. The second is the paid channels. And this goes back to what I was saying about how people stumble upon us. There are amazing events that are happening in this town, annual events that happen every single year. And one of the things that we had been talking about, even at the committee meeting with Mayor, is maybe we spend some of our advertising dollars in support of marketing those events. Maybe we provide financial support for those. Maybe we give, you know, $100 to the Rose Algren Art Show to help their own initiative, and we put the Explore Cornwall logo on it. But these are the things that I would really push. I feel really comfortable saying, come to, you know, the Clayway Studio Tour, which is in Cornwall and beyond, than to just say, come to West Cornwall Village or Cornwall Bridge because it's so cute, right? So I think there's a lot of opportunities in our annual events. And then there are other events that are not annual that I think if they're town-wide, you know, would also be ripe for paid. And then we also talked about this insertion in rural intelligence, which is nice because it's a print edition that only comes out once a year. And we took a look at these. And then the earned channels, you all know it, right? It's like there's Litchfield Magazine, Main Street, there's more than this, right? Just engaging with those editors to continue to keep us top of mind so that they're talking about us and, you know, to help amplify the conversation that we have. So for me, in my mind, is one, the most important thing not on the slide is to ultimately get input. And then it was great to see the budget, just to really understand what the paid advertising budget is, or sort of a number where we want to start. And then I could put together a recommendation against that. You know, if it's $500, I might say, like, we'll do it all on social. It'll be more efficient. I'm making the numbers up. If it was 1,000, I'd say, well, let's do some radio and some, you know, so just getting a sense of how much, you know, we want to put towards this. And then come back and present to you all. But so that's the way that I'm sort of seeing using all of our channels and what the approach would be, especially in paid, which we haven't really talked about before.
That's terrific. Thank you.
That's a lot of work, Neil.
Thanks, Bill.
Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's
Thank
no, that's yeah.
And I think you're absolutely right to emphasize the events that are happening in. I mean, for example, the rummage sale brings people in from, you know, far and wide.
Yeah. Yeah. And we can do paid social on for not a lot of money. For $50, we could reach a lot of people, you know, through that.
If I might, just as Neil's raised it again, I think our presentation tonight from the market suggests that there are major businesses in Cornwall that aren't really aware of the good work that the EDC is doing. And we've all made mention of that, but I think it might be appropriate for us to have a more intentional way of sending information out so that people do in fact realize what we're doing and perhaps in fact understand our mission. And potentially that creates a way for them to communicate back to the EDC. So I would propose that we find a more intentional way of communicating with that community and getting back to them.
Agreed.
Yeah, it also leads back to that idea of getting the businesses together with the EDC and you know, having an introductory session, talking committee, talking to them and listening to them. I think we're doing that fairly soon. Sorry, Mel.
No, it's okay. I have a comment. Both Neil and Duncan just reminded me of something. And again, this is evolving with what we really, you know, how this Cornwall Days is going to come about still. But I just realized something that I should have thought about maybe in the budget. if we do want to pull something together for July 30th, which it does seem like there's support for, and there's certainly maybe opportunity that we can, offer or engage with the Cornwall Bridge businesses as well, so it doesn't feel divided. We probably would want to put something in the Chronicle in July, which would have a June 15th deadline. And I'm wondering, because I don't even know, do government entities like ours pay for those inserts, just like if we were anyone else? Yeah, we do.
Yeah,
Okay.
we have done that.
So I wonder if maybe this is too much for this agenda, although if we would want to have an insert in July that would talk about this sort of initiative of Cornwall Days, or if we should start with the businesses and not put it in the Chronicle yet. I don't know. Just a thought. Yeah.
I think we should definitely have an insert in the Chronicle, and I think we can work on that. Get the businesses that we've approached so far, together, and get feedback as to how they would like to participate in that and how they want to network with other businesses, and then create an insert. Do you know, Mayor, by any chance, how much the insert would be? Or Bill?
I
You've
thought.
done that before.
Oh, Gary, are you muted? Are you trying to say
I
something?
don't know. I don't know what it
I
is.
thought it was. I asked for
can't-
like a
About
private.
$100 or
160.
Oh, $100. Okay,
160.
160. Okay.
Oh,
Well,
that's
Different
perhaps-
prices, color and black and white.
Perhaps we can pay for it in July, so it becomes part of. Unless we want to. Anyway, sorry to bring. It's late, and I'm sorry that I didn't think of this earlier.
Right. I think that's a good idea, but would you
We would
be able
want-
to reach all those businesses within 20 days, 3 weeks?
I
No.
think so.
Oh, well, I don't know.
Mayor, I'm not
Sorry.
sure what an insert would accomplish different than a direct outreach.
Right. I
Should
guess
be-
that's what I'm like literally live thinking. It would be nice to have an insert so that not just the businesses, but people know this is coming. This is like
Right.
the EDC is bringing back this
Right.
Cornwall Days, and it's just this general, please, if you want to get involved, email the EDC, that kind of thing. And Bianca I can certainly work something out, and we would have to share it with this, with everyone before it went in. But you're right, Gary. We could also just do the individual reach outs, which we do need to do more of, and we'll say Bianca and I have done some of it. But I'm wondering, just because the timing of the Chronicle always creeps up, because it's
Right.
printed. So I am wondering if it should just be like, so the town knows this is like coming, this sort of initiative from the EDC is coming. If that feels too soon to say that, I don't know.
My sense it is a bit soon. I feel a bit rushed on this for the goal. Going back to what James and I dealt earlier in tone, which I thought was a great idea. We might want to do an informal meet and greet with the business owners, hear from the business owners collectively, not in an official EDC meeting, but hear from them, and also, again, ask them what we can do for them. That might be best done just individually as a one-off event. And concurrently, this is high season for many of the businesses.
Good point. Okay. So where are we? Are we going to have an insert for the Cornwall Days only, or what?
I mean,
Do we have that approved? I'm not sure.
Is there an insert that for Cornwall Days specifically already, and this is a different thing?
no, sorry.
No.
And I think we have a general idea of announcing this as a new EDC initiative, and that it will encompass a few different days and different businesses will be involved. So it's a very general announcement that I would envision at this point. Bianca, please chime in. And
We have no.
so
Well,
maybe, go ahead, Bianca.
Well, I think we could have something more definite together. I think we would have to approach the commission right now to get approval for the finances for an insert, because we only meet until after June 15th again. And by that time we would have had to hand in a format, a design for, you know, an insert to the Chronicle to get printed so that it is in the July Chronicle. God, it's complicated. And Mayor and I can work on that. I'm sure that we should be able to put something together that would be an announcement of what happens on that and what could go forward into the future with Cornwall Bridge as the next destination for a celebration of their milestones and
I just wonder if we're not, as Gary suggested, we're not moving too fast trying to do it by June 15th, because I think the members of the commission ought to have a chance to review the draft before it goes into the Chronicle. So my suggestion is that we aim for a later month, July or whatever. Or
yeah,
August
but
or whatever.
Right,
But the trouble is then it doesn't it won't make it it won't make it by the day. So in other words, June 15th means it comes out in July. If the event's on the 30th, that's your only shot.
There is also
so
a midpoint, which would be putting it in as a brief. So it gets in the public announcement section within. It doesn't have the oomph of an insert itself. But one of the longer goals, and I think, Neil, this would be very much in your basket, is to get everyone to go to one site, one website. So Cornwall Days, here it is. Go to this website. Here's all the information about it. I always think of that as the center of the hourglass.
That's true. I mean, this is evolving, obviously, and it just hasn't had its chance to fully form yet. So maybe I like your suggestion, Gary. I agree with Bianca that it would be nice to have something in the Chronicle for July, that because it's just so many people really do obviously rely on the Chronicle. But if we feel that it's too soon for that, well, for this particular time, you know, I think we have to know that we're bringing back something that has a lot of potential to grow, and we're trying to make steps towards that. It doesn't have to start with the biggest of bangs, I guess, if that makes sense.
I mean, it'll be in the calendar as well, right? I'm assuming. The Cornwall calendar, the Chronicle calendar.
I mean, do we want to, if I don't really know how to handle this, and I'm sorry, I brought this up at 9:10. I'm sorry. Do we want to take a vote whether we should, and, you know, have agreed to that there would be an insert and that would be approved via email? But no, we can't even do that, can we? It would have to be a special meeting to approve the insert, wouldn't it?
I have a question.
Jane, go ahead. Yeah.
Do we need to meet once more? Because I know that just is one more thing, but the subcommittee, because I think we have to, I'm not clear in terms of the question about doing a unified Cornwall event versus the two events. It seems to me that's a little bit up in the air at the moment, or am I wrong? In which case, I'm not sure what we would be putting in our flyer if we aren't clear which it's going to be. It seems to me there was quite a strong argument for doing a unified Cornwall, you know, not separating it tonight. Is that something we need to look at and decide before we can figure out what we'd even put on a flyer, on an insert?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking it would be more general, but you're right.
So what's it going to, I mean, if we don't know what it is.
If we change it to include Cornwall Bridge, that does change things. So,
and I wouldn't even put it that way. I would say if we make it all of Cornwall.
Right.
Rather than include one part or another.
Right.
Yeah.
then
I rather liked Gary's suggestion, I must say, about getting a couple of paragraphs into the Chronicle, which I think gives us much more flexibility, and particularly if we reference the website. But that's just my view. Shall we take a vote?
I would agree with Simon on that, that it's, instead of jumping into an insert, having something on the calendar, having something in the events or a paragraph about something happening, whether it be July 30th or Columbus Day weekend, those are always busy times. It's already a lot of activity. There's already a lot of people around.
Thoughts following Richard's. Mayor, is this a July 30th event you're talking about?
It is based on the work of the subcommittee. Again, I know this is kind of evolving and there's a lot of support around it, but we just haven't had the detail oriented, nuts and bolts time yet to do all of this. But I mean, Bianca has some great plans, because the Wish House has its own milestone and the local has its milestone, maybe this is too soon. Maybe we need to just take a step and come back together when we can get more details firmed. I'm feeling a little bit like Bill said about 2 hours ago, when there just wasn't enough literally time to get things together. But and then I don't mean, Bianca, I hope you understand that I don't mean that the Wish House and also the local shouldn't do their thing. I think it's just, it needs a little bit more discussion from the EDC standpoint and, all of the town coming together, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
There's also
I think
going forward of an e-blast, of creating an e-distribution list, and that again, Neil, will be something to keep that. There is an e-distribution list that's available.
So when I've done these events in West Cornwall in the past, and I've done them in West Cornwall primarily because that's where my business is, that's where my community has been. Sorry, I have not sort of collaborated with Cornwall Bridge, but I've always felt there was a lack in Cornwall Bridge of people actually working with one another to create their own events. So I've always been a driving factor behind those winter strolls, holiday strolls, and things like that. I had to always connect with businesses, with Bain Real Estate, with the what was it back then, the Wandering Moose, Ian Ingersoll's, the bookstore. And it really has always been helpful to have sort of like a list of things that would be taking place that day, that would be in the Chronicle, because the Chronicle really goes to every household in town. And so people have that and then can go by that and, come to that event. So I think an insert with some kind of detailed listing would be really helpful. It is unfortunate that we would have to approve finances for that now because of the logistics of how those inserts are printed and the cyclicalness of it and how we meet. But I think it is really important. I mean, e-blast, and I think maybe this is what maybe, the social media is experiencing at times too. People get tired of scrolling their lives away and liking everything. And, there is, I think, occasionally really this sort of like lull where people go, okay, that's it. I'm going outside now. The weather is nice and I want to do something different than what I've been doing. But I see everybody else putting inserts into the Chronicle and it seems to be important, right? I mean, trivia night, the barnyard animals, all of that. I mean, if you didn't have an insert in there, but you have better flexibility because you can decide it as a small committee when and how to do that. Whereas here with the EDC, we're sort of bound by these timelines that really work against us to be flexible.
Well, I mean, do you think that, I guess I guess the question is, do we really think we're going to have our ducks in a row for the 30th, right? Do we, that's going to be our goal, right? We're going to sort of push to do that, Mayor,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
That was our goal. I guess
Yeah.
I just feel beyond, again, the Wish House aside, Libby at the local has such enthusiasm, as we all know. It would be wonderful as a commission if we could do this on time. I just think we brought back this idea. There's a lot to it. We just need more.
yeah, look,
you
like,
know, yeah.
I mean, authorizing $160, payment tonight, I mean, doesn't mean that we're just throwing it down the toilet, right? Like if it doesn't work out and we can't get our shit
Exactly.
together and we don't have something good, then we don't spend the money. But at least that way we're able to, in that subcommittee, do it. And, Bianca sort of swayed me. I think, the Chronicle is nice because you take the flyer out, you put it on your fridge, and you remember the event. You know what I mean? That's the sort of advantage of that. And look, it's not, it doesn't seem bank breaking, $160. If you knew everything was going forward, it would be the right choice. So maybe we just bet on it going forward and make the right choice tonight.
I appreciate that suggestion, Bill. I mean, it's good. I think to Jane's point, there's a bigger issue here that, and again, I sound like a broken record and I'm getting tired. We can walk before we run with this concept. And I do think I'm excited that there's so much support for this idea, even from Idella and James, knowing that this used to be something that would draw people to the town centers. So, but I think that, maybe we can take Bill's and come back with what we think should be this sort of announcement that yes, does focus on the 30th, but also encompasses that the EDC has this sort of intention of running with this idea of Cornwall Days. I think the biggest, getting back to what Jane's very important point is that perhaps, in this particular starting to walk before we run, we might not be able to encompass everything at once in this case, but I guess that requires another discussion.
I just think that it's you could burn $160 in the parking lot and no problem. I do it regularly. I mean, we waste money all the time. We all do it. We all do it in different ways. It's easy. It's really nothing, that kind of money. That's not the issue. The issue isn't the cost. The issue is what's the product? What are we doing? What is happening? It doesn't matter whether I'm in Cornwall Bridge or I'm in West Cornwall or I'm in Sharon. That's not why I'm bringing this up. I'm bringing it up because I'm cheap. I'm a cheap guy, and I'm fiscally conservative. I guess I should say that differently.
Thank you. It does seem to me that whatever goes in has to be approved by the EDC. Now, we can do that by vote. We can just circulate the draft and get comments.
But we don't have anything. That's why I'm saying this. There's no. We're talking about concepts, and that's great. And I'm all for different kinds of ideas and promotions and whatever it is. And I'm still kind of on the fence of whether it be separate sectors of the community, separate sectors of town, or it be a whole town-wide event. That's still debatable, but I'm not sure what this July 30th event actually, it's still in development. It's still in development. It's still conceptual. It's still coming along. So I'm a little reluctant to put out I'm a little reluctant to be approving expenditures for, what are we talking about?
Would it be helpful? Would it be helpful if we had an interim meeting which I assume we can do with proper notice. If, say you can be ready, Mayor, in, a week's time, Bianca, does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I find it just curious. I mean, Mayor had spoken to, at our last EDC meeting, she had spoken to the summer event as to what that was going to be. And now, because we heard James and Adela, all of a sudden this has sort of like shifted off into a completely different direction. It's an issue. What are we doing? And we're discussing something that wasn't a discussion before. And I don't understand why it became a discussion, neglecting Cornwall Bridge, because it really isn't like that, because Cornwall Bridge is being considered for, another time when, for instance, National Iron Bank is having their anniversary. So, I think already at the last EDC meeting, if everyone had listened, Mayor had made a presentation as to what would be going on potentially with these Cornwall days, and what the thought behind it was, and what we would be allocating money for in terms of a flyer now and in the future.
Look, I think that there's just sort of, I think we're sort of going down a bit of a rabbit hole. I think that there's an event we're trying to sort of put on, the Cornwall Days again, whether that is affected by some of the information we heard tonight. It's always good to have your ears open. Overcorrection is a mistake too, but I think there were some interesting, important things that we learned. But separate from that, if we're looking to get a flyer for the event, we have to choose to do that now. We're just unfortunately stuck in that. That doesn't mean that money is going to be spent, but it's going to give the authority to do it so that we can sort of pursue it, and then closer to the thing, we can have a meeting and sort of everybody can give their thumbs up on the content. But we're really not voting on content tonight. We would just be voting on, we would just be voting on the ability to sort of do that. Because if we don't vote tonight, then what happens is, everybody's going to spend a bunch of time doing a flyer and not knowing whether it's even going to be voted up. So I think that's kind of the part that we're stuck in.
But the way this needs to be framed for the EDC is there should be a subcommittee reporting to the EDC saying, here's what we recommend, here's the budget to do it. We discuss it, there's a motion, a seconder, and it's passed. And now here we are at 9:30, and it's nothing like a presentation to the EDC. It's, oh my gosh, what do we do? And who needs to do it? So it's just not in any form that we can respond to effectively as a commission.
So it seems clear that the subcommittee needs to meet again and then have a special meeting, as Simon suggested, afterwards to vote. Does that sound accurate? I mean, the subcommittee needs to make a decision as to whether it's a one-day event for the whole town or a two-day event, and be clear about it, I think.
I think we have something to talk about. Gary?
I think what Jane just said sounds perfectly wonderful, and anticipating. We're still learning. We're still all getting our feet, in our lives together around the EDC world. If you could have that subcommittee and put in, a 4-paragraph, short paragraph, this is what we're doing, this is where we're doing it, et cetera, circulate that. I would think that would be enough to move forward with an insert that once you have a definitive framework, a more defined framework. And because of the timing of it's May 24th, you really have about 2 weeks to get a Chronicle insert in. That's the only thing we're talking about now. The event can still go forward if the Chronicle insert doesn't happen, but it is huge publicity. And I know from Cornwall Association, we use it very appropriately because that's how you spread the word.
Right.
So I'm in general all in favor of doing an insert. We're going to learn, as we said, it may not be, we may make some errors, but it's worth it because we're all trying to do something good.
Yep, I understand. I think that's good. I agree. Go ahead, Jane.
Can I make a motion then that we approve the money for the insert, but we don't yet have the insert until after the meeting of the subcommittee? but we can, as Bill suggested, approve the money for the insert so that we can do it when we have it ready. Does that make sense?
I think
That's fair.
the draft has to be circulated to members before the final approval is given. And that can
Correct.
be done by.
Oh, yeah.
Right, it would,
email.
yeah, of course. But we
Otherwise,
would
I'm fine with
Approve the funding for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine, but
I second Jane's motion.
all in favor?
Whoa, what's the discussion? What, before you vote on
discussion.
this, what are we voting on?
We're voting on approving funding for an insert for Cornwall Days pending receipt of the actual insert itself from the subcommittee. So we're approving the funding of it, and then we'll approve the actual insert. And if we don't approve the insert, there's no insert.
And this is for an event. We have I must admit, I was not present at the last meeting, so I did not hear Mayor's presentation as to what the concept was for the July 30th event, but so just to get some, so I'm understanding what this is for. I mean, I don't want to beat this into the ground, but
Yeah.
we're coming up with an expenditure that hasn't been discussed until 10 minutes ago. That's
Well,
okay.
it
though.
was
That's okay.
discussed. No,
Well,
I
it was
understand.
discussed.
Well, I
It
mean,
was discussed at the last
the
meeting, but
event,
to be fair, it was
The
not a
event,
firm.
the event was discussed, of course. Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
No, I understand.
But- And
the event is still evolving. It's just that there's a slight bit of urgency about this flyer. And again, we're going to have an opportunity to review it and nix it if it's not to anyone.
But reviewing
But at
least
wording
this
is
way-
different. Reviewing wording is different than agreeing on a concept. So, but that's
So
what we're saying.
effectively, this is a conditional approval for the payment, which
Yeah.
will be subject to the meeting, which will be held either by Zoom or by email once the subcommittee has done its work and produced a draft.
I don't think the meeting can be held by email. I think it has to be in a public.
Well, by
forum.
that, I meant we would have
Subcommittee.
approval of the draft by email. If we need a
So-
meeting, we can have it.
So this is an expenditure of funds from the current fiscal year. Is that correct?
I think it would have to be from the next fiscal year, but it's a July event.
It's July.
Well, Duncan, you're the keeper of the money.
No, that's Gary.
That's me.
Here, I'm sorry.
The keeper of
yes.
the words. not the words.
Yes, technically it's next year, but it's, yes, it's a July 1 insert, so it's next year's money.
But do we have money in this year's budget?
No, we went over that a little earlier.
So we've expended
Yes,
all our
we-
money from this year.
We have the money, whether it's this or next year. I think the higher priority is giving Mayor and Bianca and the subcommittee approval to go forward.
I understand that, but I'm asking which year are we approving the expenditure from? The expenditure may be, the flyer may be coming out in July, but we may be able to expend it in this current year if in fact
Correct.
we have the funds for it in this current year.
Richard, I would be less concerned with which fiscal year at this moment. I'm still getting up to speed on the finances. We have, if our commission is willing to do this, we'll get it paid. I want to make sure we use up our money this year and not lose it. So it may come out of this year's money. But the higher goal is giving the authority to do something that's on behalf of the entire community that Mayor and Bianca have been working on. And I think it's worth taking that and going forward.
Is that okay, Richard?
Just trying to
Are we-
understand I'm trying to understand what we're voting on, that's all,
Sure.
It's a legitimate question.
Obviously, it's difficult because you missed last month's
That's correct.
presentation on it. So I think we should bring this to a vote. This is a very long meeting.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's coming up at this moment.
Okay, so let's just,
I'll call the vote.
Okay.
Simon, to you.
I'm sorry. Yeah, so the motion is to authorize the expenditure of $160 for an insert for the Cornwall Chronicle, subject to a review and approval by the commission of the content of that insert.
Okay.
Can I have a proposer? Jane, thank
Yes.
you. A seconder?
Second,
Ma'am, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions?
Guess I'll abstain.
Fair enough. The vote is carried. Okay, well, I think we've had enough meeting. The last question that came up was whether we should have the next meeting in person. I don't know how everyone feels about that, given what we've just heard from Gordon on the COVID situation. I'd be quite in favor of retaining the Zoom format. Can we have a
Say
vote,
Zoom
please?
for now.
In favor of retaining the Zoom format? All in favor?
Aye.
Sure.
Sure. What's the option?
Simon, I have two items,
Sorry, go ahead.
two very quick ones. My request to everyone on the commission that going forward and in anticipation of the full year budget for next year starting, please put together your proposals that involve expenditures in advance, especially in advance of a commission meeting. Either send them to me and I will put them all together and present them as one, or circulate them so that when we're meeting, it's not the first time we're all seeing it. And I'm also a big advocate of, if you can document and quantify what you're asking for on paper, it gets very much simpler.
Yeah.
Second thought, in the ARPA funding coming to Cornwall, $4,031 for this fiscal year has been identified for arts. And that's it. Arts. It's very open. It's whatever the town of Cornwall wants to do with that. There was an earlier discussion with a few people, including Todd Pike or Ellen Moon, to possibly support Clayway, to support Artist Open Studio, but that did not progress any further. So I told the people I've been talking to, I'm going to bring it to the EDC to see if the EDC is interested in finding a way of utilizing the $4,031, which would then have to be proposed to the BOS. So this would be our recommendation. I also believe the $4,031 will also be repeated for the next fiscal year. So this is something to keep in mind as we go forward. That's it.
Where does that come from, Gary?
From ARPA
Good.
funding.
That's interesting, very interesting.
That was good news. That means specifically for arts, as however Cornwall defines arts.
I don't think that's accurate, Gary, but it's too late to go into ARPA at this point.
Okay.
Let's
check the
end on that
numbers.
hopeful note.
Okay, I'll follow up with Steph Burr.
Fine. That brings us to the end of the formal agenda. Do we have any comments from the public? Or any members of the public still with us? Okay, so I think we will wait to hear the news from the subcommittee and go for that. Thanks very much. I'm sorry this meeting has gone on as late as it has. Good night,
We learned a
everyone.
lot. It was good.
no, thank you.
Time for
Thank
dinner.
you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Wow.